Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 6. Chris, is week 6?
It could be. It could be week 3. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like it's starting to blend together a little bit. Welcome to Tiger Mining Report recap here at tigerminingreport.com, which we'll get to a little bit later. I'm Rogelio and Chris. Chris Brown, and tonight we have a gentleman with us who's going to be with us for the summer, David, who I want you can introduce yourself here in a second and give a little bit of background on himself, but he's our intern. I'm not going to call it Dave the intern. He's David. So David.
Intern David.
Yeah, intern David. He is going to be writing up prospect reports for us. He's going to be learning the ins and outs of broadcasting, podcasting, everything you think of it. And so he'll be getting questions, and hopefully we'll give him the locker. I think, you know what, Chris, I think we might have to put him in the locker, be our locker room person, correspondent when he goes, so after a game, like, David, go down to the locker room. That's what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. You go down there with us, and if you ask for an autograph, you're automatically fired. So that being said, but all kidding aside, welcome, David. And David knows a lot about baseball, but I'll let him, as LeVar Burton once said on Reading Rainbow.
You don't have to take my word for it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. David, go ahead and take away. Talk a little bit about your background, how you got into baseball.
Well, I appreciate you having me here for the summer. It's a privilege. Yeah. I believe blue and orange. I've been a Tigers fan since probably, I would say, like 2008. Back in the oh god, I can't remember the utility guy's name that we had. Like Adam Everett. Yeah.
Nice.
Back in the Adam Everett days.
Unfortunately, he was not the utility guy. He was the everyday shortstop, but he with that utility bat, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it must be mixing them up, but yeah, no. Been a Tiger fan for quite a while. Yeah, I love the farm system too. Definitely a Casey Crosby fan.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything specific you'd like to know?
Well, did you know? By the way, David used to pitch. Was a pitcher in high school. We don't have to tell you what high school, but you were a pitcher in high school. And did you play? What other position did you play in high school? I can't remember. I think you told me. I couldn't remember.
I was a primary second baseman. I pitched here and there, but yeah, I really stuck it out with the men's league for DSMBL. That's it. That was my home league for quite a while, but yeah, life's getting in the way. But yeah, baseball is definitely what keeps me going a lot.
Awesome. He has 3 wooden bats within a reach of his hand, as he showed us right before the podcast started. And yeah, there was a black one, and there was a nice there was another one in there. I think it was. I don't know. Either way, David knows his baseball, and Jeremy says what's up in the YouTube chat though. So if you want to join us on YouTube, youtube.com/Tiger Mining Report, and the website will be launching. The website's done. We have to put some content out there. So expect that some content coming out here in the next couple of days. Is we're going to be redoing a top 25 prospects. David will be in on that process. So will Jake Bose, who we talked to last week, and he's getting ready to chomp at the bit to go back out there. So that being said, looking across the system this week, there's been some good productions. We also saw that Lakeland does have a camera. It's now been confirmed that Lakeland has a camera, ladies and gentlemen. And that was out for yesterday's performance for Christian Santana. And Isaac Pacheco will get in that a little later. The Woo Sox were in town against Toledo. Let's start there with the Mud Hens. As Matt Manning pitched today, pitching 3 innings, 1 hit, 4 strikeouts. And I don't know if you guys had a chance to see. I posted over at Woodward Tigers, but Chris, I'll start with you. Matt Manning is supposed to get a couple starts in Toledo until he is ready to go back.
Yeah, I don't know if we got velocity readings on that. Did you? Were they posting them?
I didn't see anything. No.
It doesn't really matter that much. I mean, the main thing with Manning is you want to see him healthy and pitching, and that's what he did. He would give up 1 hit over 3 innings, 4 strikeouts. Yep. Like,
oh yeah,
he struggled a lot in Toledo last year before he was called into action. So having him perform well in his first outing is nice. But really, yeah, just it's about him making sure he's healthy and getting him back up to the big leagues. Although I don't know, we don't have to get in too much, but the pitching certainly hasn't been the problem for the Tigers this year.
No.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, if especially another nominee for farmhand of the day is definitely Ricardo Pinto for Toledo. Really, not going to say went pitch for pitch with Manning, but really carried on the game pretty well. I had 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. So really did decent over 3 innings. It's like he hasn't really. This is his first like long outing of the year. So, and he's had like, even though he's had like 8 still. Ryan Lavarnere really carried the squad. I'm really appreciating seeing him getting it together with the bat. Yeah, overall decent game for Toledo. It was like you alluded to, Chris. It was nice to see Manning. I was watching the game a little bit. He was staying in the zone a lot. He was keeping all the curveballs down. He was releasing a little bit early in the fastball. It looked like you saw him. Like a lot of them were just riding right out of the zone. But overall, I think he looked really solid. I think he needs one more like stretch outing, but I think he could be coming back soon.
Hey, you bring up a good point there, David, about this fastball. That was something that apparently some people on Twitter were noticing that was not hitting the quadrants and what have you. And again, first time out, I like that he had a curveball on the lefty that did pretty well, but not gonna read much into that. But it was just good to see that he was throwing. And Chris makes a good point. The pitching certainly not the problem here with the Tigers. It's the bats, and saw that Jack Lopez had a it was a double. Yeah, it was double. Yeah, it was double. But other than that, as far as the bats were concerned, I guess I was looking at somebody was telling me that Daz Cameron's on a 9-game hitting streak.
10 games now. Yeah,
10 games now. Wow.
But
right.
it's one of those 10-game hitting streaks that raises your batting average to 230 and your OPS to 600. It's nice to see him performing better, but there's not a whole lot of impact behind it. So, yeah.
I mean,
go ahead, David.
I mean, sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say, it's like, even though, yeah, it was a 1-for-4 game, which you never really like to see. Like, it was a double. It's like, I can't remember if it was like a hard hit one or not, but still, it's like any extra base hit's decent, even though like you said, like you never like to see a hitting streak go forward with a 1-for-4 day, but
Tigers fans would take just about anything right now. They had 1 hit today in the big league, so a 10-game hitting streak sounds magic.
Call up Ryan Lavarnway.
Yeah.
Or the case of over the last couple of weeks, another guy who's been having a good last couple of weeks is John Valenti, who is close to 300 now. He is in the month of May. He is batting .462, .533, and .538. And that goes for, if you do the math at home, it's 6 for 13 this month. As he is playing third base, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, I don't remember him playing a lot of third base last year. Or did he?
He's played third base in the past. I view him mostly as a second baseman or outfielder. So but yeah. I want to say that third base was kind of what he was drafted as. But no, I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, you find out that he's hitting 300 and it shocks nobody who's paid attention because what do they call him down to 300? He was like a 350 hitter in college. He's like a 300 lifetime hitter in the minors. And who was it? Greg Gainey last week told us he's going to be in the majors one day. He doesn't know, for how long or what he's going to do, but somebody's going to call him up at some point because he can hit. He falls out of bed and hits 300. And that's another one where, like, yeah, I don't know if it's going to work at the big leagues. You'd think that a guy with this sort of track record would have already made his way through the system and into the majors. There must be something that's holding him back there to scouts. But, as we like to say right now, desperate times, who knows? Maybe he's got a hot bat and they just go, what the hell, bring him up. But it seems unlikely. I mean,
he lit the board up pretty decently at Erie last year, didn't he?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, yeah, he did pretty decent.
I think he ended up getting injured.
I'm pretty sure he hit 300, or did he?
Yeah.
Yeah. He spent the aisle.
That's what Valenti do.
Yeah. and Valenti, one of those things about Valenti too that I certainly can appreciate is the fact that it is a guy who is kind of does an undefined role, and he might be under the radar. I don't know, but as far as organizational depth is concerned, or what have you, I mean, he's not on any top prospect list or anything, but the fact he goes out there and just does what he has to do, at some point you have to kind of, will he be part of the TMLR top 25 list?
So there's, there's kind of like, he also walks a decent amount. You know,
Yeah.
he doesn't have a ton of power, but there's like a Harold Castro with walks vibe to him. Like he's going to put the bat on the ball and maybe walk a little bit and play all over the field. You know, Harold Castro was a prospect in his younger 20s and then kind of fell off prospect lists and was basically an org guy. And then suddenly he's been in the majors for the last few years. And you never know. And like, you know, Valenti gets a chance, maybe a couple of injuries, comes up and performs, and suddenly he's the Harold Castro for the next 3 years. It's entirely possible, I think. But, you know, again, I wouldn't put him on a prospect list, but he can hit. That's kind of rare these days.
Yeah. I mean, are you guys ready to talk about the Tigers today, or are you going to need some bereavement time?
You know, we can talk about the Tigers for a minute, because I know rather that we are technically we do the minor league overview, but we have to talk about the Tigers a little bit because, well, yeah, you're right, David. Because I did an article earlier today on Woodward Tigers about the lack of power and that being an issue, and it's the second time I've written it, but it's. There was a tweet that talked about them hitting it into the ground and that causing a problem. But today was one of those days where, I sat there. I'm watching the game in my office. I got my multi setup thing going and yada yada yada. And all I was thinking of, and I don't know if you've ever seen this movie because you're young and yeah, you're relatively. I don't know. We'll see. We'll test you on this. I mean, let's see here. You should. Hopefully, you've seen this movie.
We got one goddamn hit.
You can't say goddamn on the.
That's all. We got one goddamn hit.
Have you seen that movie? You know what that is?
Oh, come on. What kind of baseball fan do you think I am? Of course, I've seen Major League.
I'm just testing you, just making sure. But yeah, one hit. And that was a scope double. And that was his second hit. He's now, let's see, it was like 2 for 28 or 2 for 29 over the last few weeks. Go ahead, Chris. What are you going to say?
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's so weird. You know, we were talking yesterday about how, like, I was somewhat encouraged. They only scored 2 runs, but they had 10 or 11 hits. And I was like, I was encouraged by that they put together some hits, got some doubles. But baseball, of course, there's no such thing as momentum, right? So they come out today with 1 hit. But Jonathan Scope is one of the guys we've been complaining about the most, the guy he needs to produce. And he hasn't been at all, but like the last couple games, he's actually hitting the ball hard again, which is a good start for him. He had some poor luck, and today he gets the only hit. It's like, well, we'd like for everybody else to contribute too, if possible. Can we work on that? But yeah, it's I don't know. They certainly aren't trying to hit the ball on the ground. I don't think that's AJ Hinch's philosophy. And if the hitting coach, if that was Scott Coolbaugh's philosophy, he wouldn't be the Tigers hitting coach. And it's not like they're not trying to get hits or score late. It's just very frustrating. And baseball is just not meant for people who live and die with every single game. It feels awful right now because they can't score any runs. They get the worst offense in baseball. But I don't know. At some point, it's just going to stop being awful, and it'll be fine again. I don't know if it'll be good, but people just kind of have to wait for it to happen. I don't know how else. And as much as fans are bothered by it, it's got to be hanging over that locker room like a cloud of smoke from like a 70s poker club.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like you're touching on momentum. It's like I really thought we were putting some together after that game 2 with the Dodgers. It's like all teams of the Dodgers. It's like we had to really work. We really worked as a team. Really put it together to pull out that win against like Dave Roberts' acclaimed 2022 world champions. And yeah, it's like you really thought something was going to happen after that, but unfortunately, just the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. I need to say.
No, that's a good way to put it. But it's also, I look at it this way: if you're a fan telling a Candelario, Scope, or Castro need the DFA, then who do they bring up? I keep saying that, but there's just some of you have to kind of walk away from social media for a little while to kind of just look at it for the sense of this team is trying. Just nothing's working. I mean, I was looking at Jonathan Scope's where in terms of swing plane, and looking at where he's swinging in the middle, he's still missing pitches right down the middle. And he's not his number. There's an ISO drop from last year about the same time. So and Jeremy, I like the way he said it. They're pissed that they need to know the form. And like you said, when it'll happen. It'll be fine just at the least. You're right. When it starts going, it'll go. But what we did see this weekend was 2 quality starts: Rogelio Rodriguez and Tarek Skubal. And that, again, the pitching has not been a problem. The bullpen kind of imploded on Friday with Soto, and then Fulmer on Saturday, or was it? Or no, I'm sorry. Oh, Soto on Thursday, Fulmer on Saturday. Maybe I got that right. Or
I mean, I'm not going to say that game was Fulmer's fault.
Right.
There's a little bit of argument with that, but yeah, I wouldn't say that was Fulmer's fault. He gave it everything he had. That's what I'm going to say about it.
I mean, one of the tough things to do, and we'll get back to the minors in a little bit, but like the knee-jerk reaction, of course, is, this has been a long rebuild, that it's not working, fire Avila or whatever. And then if you look at the offseason moves, they all seem to be working fairly well. Like Eduardo Rodriguez didn't have a great couple outings to begin the season, but he's been perfectly acceptable, like exactly what you wanted, like 6 innings. What is it, 1 run?
Yeah,
he's been very good. Skubal took a step forward. Baez has provided a ton of big moments for him. He's a streaky guy. We knew that, but the defense has been there just about every game, and he's had huge hits. Meadows has been great, apart from not hitting home runs. I mean, people were upset with Barnhart, thinking his defense is overrated and he wasn't getting on base, but he's done a little bit better. Andrew Chafin has been fine in his short outings. Like, every move they made was solid. They just nothing is working, and I don't know what to do with that as like an outside analyst who just watches the team and tries to figure out what's going on. I don't know what you do as a coach. I don't know what you do as a player other than just go back the next day and try again. So it's definitely a really frustrating place to be right now. And if not for the Reds being an absolute debacle, the Tigers would be the worst team in baseball right now, which is not where anybody expected or wanted them to be.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is I hate to bring this up because I'm still not over it, but like I'd hate to compare it to this, but this is 2015 all over again. It's like, I don't know if either of you guys remember that season, but like, yeah, we had like the second year of Price, and we brought in Cespedes and Alfredo Simon, and we addressed all the needs of 2014, like better bullpen and all that. We brought on Tom Gorzolani, and like, they addressed all the needs, but like, where did that get us? Like a big old last place and a complete teardown. It's like I said, I'm not going to compare it to that. The schematic of the team is a lot different now, but like you said, Chris, I'd like to think there's going to be a bright spot of the season soon because the team's gelling really well. But yeah, it's just unfortunate that we just got to wait out the storm.
Ride out the storm. Sorry, that was some REO Speedwagon there. But no, it's again, and Chris pointed out, Eduardo Rodriguez, Avila signing, it's worked out well. Austin Meadows, and Al Avila trade. Again, and I know it.
War.
Yeah.
Sorry, the top two hitters by WAR are Meadows and Baez.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but then it's like I said, it's maddening when it goes well. It's all Hinch. AJ Hinch is doing great, fantastic. And again, if it sounds like I'm being an Al Avila defender, I'm not. It might sound that way, but look, bottom line is this: the guy we know. I've written numerous articles. I've gotten, and one of them have gotten me in trouble. So about Al Avila, I'm right now as it stands. You get okay. So let's say the Tigers fire Al Avila. Okay, let's say hypothetically that happens. So you have Jay and Sam, who are underneath Al right now. They take over, and again, you would have to wait a while before changes would have to be made. So that's going to take some time. And then what is he called? Rebuild, all this naming, labeling, all this crap that's just unnecessary. They go back and forth. And I like this comment in our YouTube channel. Chord Melody, Yuki, ukulele. Come on, Roger. Anyway, call Orkin to get rid of the termites and the Tigers' bats. I like that. That's funny.
Yeah. I mean, they're swinging wet newspapers right now.
Yeah. I like that.
I don't know. Like I in my head, they've kind of set themselves up for a 2-year window. basically, with the Baez opt-out, with the Erod opt-out, with Chaffin's here 2 years. Grossman's gone after this year. Miggy's contract is up after next year. There's a lot of things happening. Candelario will be a free agent. So if the things don't work out this year, I assume that Avila would get one more year at least, but maybe they just start tearing it down and trading the veterans and stuff now and trying to, reconfigure. But it's, I don't know, it's way too soon to even consider that, right? I mean, we talked. I don't even think the most optimistic fans, maybe some optimistic fans, thought they were going to, win 90 games this year. But most people, all the projections had them under 80 wins, I think, and most people were around 80. Like, this is a 500 team, so it's I don't know. I think people got too excited about a team that still has some deep flaws, and basically what they were doing was they were taking below average players and trying to get average at most spots. And they're going to have to continue upgrading along the line to become a playoff team. But I don't know. People just expected that, I think, sooner. They didn't expect to get this giant hole where are they 10 games out of first now?
Yeah.
7 games, something like that. Yeah, it's tough.
And if you look at some of the numbers too, like the hard hit contact I brought up today, they're dead last in hard hit contact. And so why is that relevant to the conversation? Simply this. They're also one of the, in terms of barreling up the ball, they're one of the worst at doing so. You could talk about launch angle. Well, Tampa's got a 9.7 launch angle. Well, Tampa's good at math. I'm not. And so they're somehow able to win with that. But the Tigers, in terms of looking at how the Tigers are one of the worst teams in barreling up the ball right now. So you need that power. Right now, at this point last year, they had, I think, like 26, 27 home runs. They have 11. And the hard hit contact did not increase until later. But then there's something else that seems to be gotten in the wayside. The outfield was towards the bottom of the pack in home runs as a group last year. So was third base. So was shortstop. Yes.
Does that count Haas?
Does it count Haas? That's a very good question.
I guess you probably spent more time at catcher than outfield. But sorry to interrupt. But yeah. Like, Grossman had 20 home runs, and Haas had 20 something, but he was probably mostly a catcher.
So in terms of, see how StatCast did it, or excuse me, how the Fangraphs did it was rather peculiar. But let me see here. Let me make sure I have this. Right. Let me pull it up again. So one of the things about the offense last year going into 2022 was they would have to address not only shortstop, but they would have to, I was thinking maybe, hey, you know what, get an outfield, or maybe get a bat. They're 29th in the league last year in home runs from the outfield at 53. So as a collective. So then at second base, because Scope was listed as a first baseman, which I thought was strange.
Well, he played mostly first base last year, right?
Was it majority of first base? Yeah, you're right. Yeah. By the way, the Angels had 2 home runs from the second base last year. 2.
David Fletcher.
Yeah, David Fletcher.
Well, David Fletcher, he played third base, didn't he? If I'm not mistaken.
He probably filled in for Rendon.
Yeah, because he went down with the hip.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And who else did? Was it Rengifo?
Yeah, Luis Rengifo. Yeah, and they had another guy. They brought in on a minor league signing. Name doesn't come to mind, but yeah, their infield was largely short from Brandon Marsh. Was that their first baseman or their outfielder? Or no?
Marsh is outfielder. I think you're thinking of Jared Walsh, which is
Jared Walsh,
a Marsh sounding name. Walsh and Marsh.
Yeah, the heir to Albert Pujols and David Fletcher.
Yeah,
that was essentially the Angels outfield last year. So
I mean, when I addressed it in the article today, there was more problems. They addressed every single problem. But, I mean, if we're going to be Captain Hindsight here, I still thought that the depth coming into 20, even before the Austin Meadows trade happened, the outfield, if you look down in Toledo, you look down at Erie, if there was an injury, they would be screwed. And it's exactly how it played out when Riley Green went down. And they did not, again, I thought maybe just getting a thumper, just somebody out there that could hit in the outfield would be ideal. But, I mean, right now we can't dwell on it. It's the past. It's past.
Maybe that thumper could be a Cody Clemens, who had he had a bizarre week down in Toledo. So he what did he go 5 for 20? I'm looking. Yeah, 5 for 20, no doubles, no home runs, but 3 triples. So he's now He's got 4 triples on the season, which is tied for second in all of minor league baseball. And one thing, it's still early on, but there's some kind of bizarre, like David mentioned, his strikeouts are still kind of there. His walk rate is just way down this year. It's down to like 3-4%. And he was normally like a reliably average walk rate guy, but he's making more contact. I didn't look at his swing number, so I'm wondering if he's just swinging a lot more. And the result is his batting average is like 50 points higher than it was last year. And he's got 6 home runs and like 8 doubles and 4 triples. Like he's batting the ball all over the park. So we get a lot of questions about him. I think one of the questions is like, when's he coming up? And I don't know. Like, I don't think they view him as sort of that spark plug offensive player. I think they view him as basically an injury replacement who could play himself into a regular role if he hits. But at a certain point, they do have to just start trying things.
That was.
What's that?
Yeah, I mean that was kind of Hinch's philosophy last year of the like kind of the putting names into a hat and dumping it out and sorting it out into 9, and that was what your lineup was for the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and in terms of Clemens though, it's like you look at the line and it's like he has 4 walks to 31 strikeouts. It's like that's something I'd like to see get sorted out. It's I know baseball's a lot of hits, but you got to find other ways to get on base, and it's unfortunately you'd hate to see Jacoby Jones 2.0, where like if he wasn't getting hits to get on base, there wasn't very much else after that. But that's something I'd like to see out of Cody Clemens. And as I alluded to before, it's like I like to think he's enough of an athlete to handle left field, but like when you look at Comerica Park, you got to be a different type of outfielder to handle that those gap to gap hits.
Clemens he's made some surprisingly solid plays. He made a nice diving catch out in left field earlier in the season. He's got kind of that, I don't know, you just call it like a gamer. Like you put him anywhere and he's gonna play his best and do decent on defense. But yeah, I don't think you want him as your everyday left fielder in Comerica. I guess what people would hope for, and I think he does have the track record of walking. Like I said, he just, for whatever reason this year, it's just like, no, I'm just gonna swing. And so far it's working for him, but yeah, that's not a good indicator of future success by any means. But it's basically like, all right, is it Cody Clemens or is it Willie Castro or Harold Castro? Are we taking one of those guys and playing them all over the field? Because I don't think they would want to bring Cody Clemens up and put him on the bench 4 times a week. So they would want to move him around, have him play second, have him play third, have him play the outfield. And a lot of it with all these guys, it's always like, okay, well, you bring them up, what's your corresponding move? And for some people, it's easy enough to say, hey, we're tired of the Castros or whatever. But AJ Hinch has shown that he likes both of those guys in some capacity. And I think a lot of what governs AJ Hinch's approach is home runs, which is kind of funny because they have none this year. But like, we saw it earlier in the year, like he pinch hit with Dustin Garneau instead of Victor Reyes in a game. And then afterward he said, yeah, he's the one who can change the game with one swing. Like,
he did once or twice last year. Like almost literally once or twice, but Dustin Garneau really came out of nowhere, and he pledged that philosophy you were talking about. But yeah, it's like even when he was like the manager in Houston, you could see it. It's like when you have a lineup of largely home run based hitters, like even in 2017, sans the controversy, you look at that lineup and you're like, yeah, that really pledges the runs by home runs philosophy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I looked today that the Astros top 3 or 4 of their lineup had as many home runs as the Tigers did as a team. Yordan Alvarez and Bregman, and it's like, yeah, man, like Jeremy Pena has 6 home runs this year? It's just
really killing it with the soundboard.
Thanks.
The other thing, so we saw, you mentioned Manning. That was kind of the biggest starting news. We did see who got called up. Kerry Carpenter got called up to Toledo. He didn't play. Dane Myers also got called up this week. He played a little bit, but I don't know if those are truly impactful moves. But Joey Wentz had kind of a wild outing where he struck out 8 batters and at one point struck out 7 in a row. And then they pulled him after 4 innings, and I don't know, it was like 53 pitches. So it's kind of, there's been speculation that they're going to call him up to have him start one of these doubleheader games or call him up to do something.
Yeah.
So we'll see that soon.
Well, what was funny is that just how, the day that he did that, ironically enough, we were talking to Hinch in the clubhouse, in the dugout. I'm not allowed in the clubhouse as of yet, but hopefully they'll come soon. But we're talking to him fingers crossed. Absolutely, David. So we're talking about that a little bit, and where he was mentioning one of the names that could possibly get a call up at some point soon between at the time. This is for Fado's first start too. So, and I thought Fado was going to go down to Houston, but then there was going to be a bullpen start. But either way, I think Fado is going to be scheduled starter for Tuesday. I believe I saw.
Yeah, is that the doubleheader?
Yeah, I think I saw Evan Pitzold from the Free tweet out. Yeah,
that doubleheader against the A's.
Yeah, this will be the third doubleheader of the season.
Because he'll be the 27th man.
Yeah,
he made a start yesterday for Toledo, didn't he? If I'm not mistaken.
Not Faedo.
Or I think it was it Faedo? I think he made a start for Toledo, whether in the recent 2 days.
Was it who started yesterday? I thought it was Chase Anderson that started.
Yeah, when did Faedo start for the Tigers? He started.
That was last week. That was the Pirates doubleheader.
No. Rodriguez started yesterday for Toledo.
Elvin Rodriguez.
Yeah.
No, not Elvin. Nivaldo Rodriguez.
That's right. Nivaldo. Yeah, sorry.
I must be getting my days mixed up then. I could have sworn I saw him somewhere. Yeah.
But,
what did Evan tweet out exactly on there? Anybody?
I didn't see that, but I'll take a look.
All right. So, as far as as far as Toledo goes, they are now over. They're back to 500, and they are, in terms of just as a team. It's like I said, it's a veteran-laced team. There's not a lot of prospects, which is why if it feels like we go through a skip over or quickly overview of Toledo, it's not the case. It's just because, unlike last year, it's kind of like how it was the beginning of last year. It was the same thing with Toledo. But Toledo will get interesting as time goes on. But the Carpenter theory, this is my Carpenter theory. And I told Chris this last night. And David, I'm going to tell you this theory. It's just a theory. It's just irresponsible speculation. So here we go. I think that they brought up Kerry Carpenter. So a corresponding move will happen where somebody from Toledo, whether it's Daz Cameron, I said Cody Clemens, but Cody Clemens gets a call up and Carpenter takes his place. It's just a theory. Again, whether it's true or not, we'll see.
That's bold.
Yeah.
I like it.
As far as the starters go for the Oakland series, like with Panea. Yeah, I always second guess myself. Takes on Paul Blackburn, who's doing pretty well for him. Game one of the doubleheader, Derek Skubal against Frankie Montez, who a lot of Tiger fans wanted. I thought would be good in uniform. Game two, TBA or TBD versus TBD. Wednesday, TBD versus Zach Logue. And on Thursday, Bo Brisky against James Kaperlin.
Brilliant.
So,
yeah. But then Evan, he speculates that it's going to be Faedo start game two of the doubleheader on Tuesday, and Wednesday start is expected to be a pitcher from AAA Toledo. So that would be Joey Wentz, Logan Shore, Nivaldo Rodriguez. I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting if they pass over Wentz.
I wanted to talk about Bo Brisky real quick because he has been an absolute pleasant surprise for the Tigers rotation as of late. It's like he was doing stellar in Toledo before we brought him up, but it was nice to see him taking accountability, even though it was largely the offense's fault for the loss today. He's been able to make it pitch for pitch with his opposing starter and all of his, even when you're on a stage like Los Angeles and you can go pitch for pitch with Clayton Kershaw. It's like it's nice to see that he has like the mettle to be a major league starter when like a year ago, it's like nobody even know who Bo Brisky was before he won like minor league pitcher of the year. Or it's like that, was it Tigers minor league pitcher of the year?
Yep.
Yeah, he was Tigers minor league pitcher of the year. It was funny because we were talking about that Saturday with Dan Hasty on air that around this time last year, we took our first trip to West Michigan. It was really cold. And we ended up we stayed at Airbnb. We watched the entire weekend. Brisky, I credit to Jacob Bose, who noticed right away what he could do. But it was so strange because I think it was it was supposed to be a Hugh Smith start. There it is, Chris. First time I made a Hugh Smith joke in a couple weeks now. And it's not a joke. It's no knock on Hugh Smith, but
yeah.
it
became like a running thing. Like, yeah, we're going to see him, and he was Kaiser Soze.
Yeah,
poof, gone.
Did somebody from Toledo retire this week? Or
JT Perez.
Yeah, the lefty.
Name?
Yeah.
They and he was a minor league free agent signing. They also, we didn't talk about we haven't got to West Michigan yet, but they released Ray Rivera, so that's another punching bag gone. Unfortunately, he gave them some home runs. That was fun, but second round pick from 2017 draft.
You crazy son of a bitch, you did.
The 2017 draft paint is kind of dry on that one. It's Faedo, Vest, and Drew Carlton maybe, and that's about it.
Wait, you said Ronaldo Rivera?
Yep.
Oh man, I didn't even know that. That's a shocker.
Yeah, they kind of sneaked that one out there. It was I don't remember what other moves they made that day. It was along with a couple other moves, and it was like, yeah, Ray Rivera he's been on the injured list, and then they released him. So all-time leader in home runs for the Whitecaps, I believe.
He's the Crash Davis of the Whitecaps.
I haven't checked to see if he's going to catch on somewhere else. I don't know if he wants to keep playing or what, but
I don't know. I mean, I say shocker phonetically. Like, honestly, I'm surprised it took the system this long. It's like, yes, it was. There was a shred of me that was holding out hope for him because he's a second round pick, and you always want to have a deep draft. But just he was really starting to become like the I'm not even gonna say Walmart. I'm gonna say like dollar store Joey Gallo. Like when he wasn't hitting home runs or walking, he wasn't really. He wasn't doing very much else, and he never really had a solid defensive spot. Like, he was drafted as a first baseman, if I'm not mistaken. And then they tried moving him to the outfield to try and find a spot for him somewhere, but just never panned out, unfortunately.
There was by the way, we last year did a video on him because there was a change in his swing plane, and that's where he started getting some more home runs. Honestly, we don't want to root for anybody obviously not to fail, to fail in there or anything, but it was good to see they made adjustments, but I think it was a little too late at that point. And so it's with the organization, like we've said this last year and it bears repeating, there is a different type of way the minor leagues are being constructed right now among the Tigers, whether we're starting to see the results with Brisky's a prime example of that, but on the hitting side, I think it's going to take a while. But on the pitching side, we did see that, and that kind of segues into what we saw in Erie this week, as the SeaWolves were at home this week against one of the best teams in the Eastern League, the Altoona Curve, who have several top of the Pirates prospects, several of the top prospects in the Pirates system, minus, of course, Onel Cruz, who is in Indianapolis, going, what the hell am I doing here? Why am I here? And when the hell am I going to get up to Pittsburgh? But that's another story and another sad organization for another day. So, that being said, the SeaWolves, we had Greg. By the way, Greg was fantastic last week. It was one of those things where we always have a guest on. Someone was talking to Chris about yesterday on the way up to Lansing. And, shout out to Hens Highlights here. Good to see you in the YouTube chat. But when we have a guest on for the first time, it always goes a little awkward because we're trying to feel them out and trying to understand their cadence and how they talk and how comfortable they are. And Greg stayed with us the entire show. He answered the questions or anything, and he was fantastic. And he basically was calling us all, hey, when do you guys come to Erie? So we'll be going to Erie next week. We challenge accepted. We'll go next weekend. So it was just fantastic to have him on. And a guy who understands the game, does a really good job calling the games in Erie. Chris, what are you going to say?
Tigers fans are very fortunate. They have two, they're three full-time minor league announcers. And Jim Weber is, a legend Hall of Famer in Toledo, but he's not, I don't think he has a future in the majors, as it were, because he's done 6,000 straight games in Toledo. He's been there since 1975. But Greg Gagne and Dan Hasty are two of the best announcers in minor league baseball, and both could be major league announcers. You don't see that. Part of it is there's just so few jobs that there are a lot of guys who are overqualified throughout the minors, but there are a lot of guys who are not qualified at all in the minors too. And so, yeah, Tigers fans, those people who get to tune into the minor league broadcast or just hear the voices and the clips we put out, should realize that these are two really good announcers, and they probably both will be in the majors at some day. It's tough. You take any job you can get. Obviously, I'm sure they both love to do the Tigers, but if you have to do the Marlins, you do the Marlins because you're in the majors. So, just enjoy them while they're there, I think.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think, is it Paul Severino? He's on the mic right now for Marlins, correct? Or I think it is.
I couldn't tell you who's on the Marlins right now. I know that Rod Allen's down there doing crowd work, I think.
Yeah, I know they brought in an MLB network personality for the mic. I just can't put my finger on who, but just to touch on Erie real quick before either of you say anything, I really want to defend Reese Olson.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to spend a minute defending Reese Olson because, he took over for Kutsia in the second, and the first two innings of work he had, they were actually really efficient. It's I can't remember exactly what happened, but there was not going to say a botch play to second base.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, I think it was Carpio at second base, but yeah, it's like something didn't go right there, and I might have shaken him up a bit. He struck out 2 after that though, but there's always plays that you want to be made during an inning, and I think that unfortunately that third inning just got away from him a little bit. But overall, it's it was a good outing for him.
Yeah, I was a little bit curious why they went with Kuzia as an opener. I don't know, because Olsen started earlier in the week. I don't know.
He started on Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know what exactly was going on there, but I mean, Olsen. We've talked about Olsen a lot. He's got really good stuff. The delivery and the command still need some refinement. I maintain that I think he's going to be a really good bullpen piece down the road, but they're going to keep developing him as a starter because he's 21, and there's no rush at this point. And again, like the Tigers, they're down 3 or 4 planned starters this season already, and they've been able to get by with some performances from the depths of their system. So there's no need to rush into these pitchers, which is good. It's nice. Sometimes you got to let these guys stew a little bit and figure things out. But no, I mean, the pitching staff down there in Erie, so that Erie they split 3-3 with Altoona, or they go 4-2. I don't.
They split the series. They split the series.
It was like 5 really tight, low-scoring games. A couple of them, I think, went to extras, and then 1 blowout, which is always kind of funny. But I mean, like we Adam Wolf and Austin Bergner continue to just kind of quietly do their job. I think they both went 5 and only gave up 1 earned run. Marcus Solbach, the veteran, I want to say he was almost perfect through 4 innings, no hits. I think maybe 1 walk. And then Olsen was the only one who got touched up a little bit, but it was 2 different outings, and neither of them was a blow up. He just none of these guys are being allowed to pitch more than 5 innings this year. I think it's part of the new organizational philosophy. We touched on it when we were down in West Michigan. Wilmer Flores threw 30 pitches in the first inning, and they just took him. They were like, "That's it, no more than 30. That's it."
I'm going to be going off on that here shortly, but
it's just their new philosophy. We talked about these are all Dodgers guys. We saw it last year with Clayton Beater and Landon Knack and some of the other guys, Bobby Miller. The Dodgers Loons pitchers would only get 1 to 2 innings a game, and I don't know what the reason for that is, other than you don't want to waste bullets. But we saw, we've seen it with the Tigers all year in the minors, and then I watched Joey Estes, a 20-year-old pitcher for the A's, for the Lansing Lugnuts. He pitched 6 innings in one of the doubleheader games. It's all right, well, they clearly don't believe in babying these arms this way. So it's just different organizational philosophies. But yeah, I mean, I think the Erie pitching staff as a whole has done pretty well lately. They with even with the lack of offense, I think they're only a game out of first place right now.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, David.
No, I mean, I also want to give some love to Alex Powers as well. It's I'll nominate him for AA Farmer of the Game. Yeah, it's 2 innings, 5 strikeouts. He had a walk, but still, it's that's not going to go unnoticed. And I think Chris, if it hadn't have been for the 2 inning rule, I think that's de facto what you're going to call it. I think he should have gone back out for the 9th. Or yeah, it was pretty decent outing for him. You really got to appreciate that.
Yeah, considering he's been getting touched up pretty much
Yeah,
since he arrived. Actually,
earlier this week, I think, Raj, that I was like, he's going to get cut because I think he had like 3 really rough outings. So that's nice to see.
yeah,
You know, and
Yeah, I know
this,
he got.
again, that's me. You know, the knee jerk reaction sometimes when you look at a guy not performing a little bit, and sometimes you got to sit and watch what they're actually doing. And like you said, David, you saw what happened with the Reese Olson. The stats can look ugly sometimes, and it doesn't always mean that they pitch poorly. It's sometimes bad luck. The ball hits a bag. Sometimes a good stat line is lying about something that wasn't so great. So yeah, it's important to watch.
But those two of the 3 strikeouts that Olsen had, it's like if you go back and look at the spread, it's like sure the hitters were working the count pretty decently. I can't remember who the hitters were, but like still he was a bulldog through both of those strikeouts. It's like he really battled through it, and I think he got to a full count on one, if not both of them. But yeah, it's like when you really know how to work through an at bat like that and come up with a strikeout, it's like that's honorable.
Yeah, especially when for one of the things that we talked about with Greg last week is that every single pitcher has a game plan to stick to, and they always have some sort of thing they're working on. So to see what whatever their approach they're working on for the day come through and help out, that goes a long way, especially on the development side of things. But as far as the hitting up today, Dingler's hitting streak stopped, so he did not get a hit today. But I was up to what, 9 games, Chris?
9 games, yeah. And
yeah,
he must have raised his average by 100 points or so because it was a lot of multi-hit games too.
Yeah, so at the beginning of May, he came in with a 214 batting average. He started a hitting streak actually on April 28th, and then after that, he's gone from a 214 now to 274. He's batting 440 for the month. And I'll go to you, David, here in a second. But Chris, one of the things I have noticed about him is that it's not just not just singles. He's got a couple doubles in there. The home runs haven't come yet, but a lot of line drive power.
Yeah, and I think Greg mentioned it to us last week. He had started to see Dingler really take an opposite field approach more, and he's always hit to the opposite field to a certain degree. We saw a great opposite field home run he hit last year at a game to tie it, but he seems to have taken that to heart, and yeah, it's been really nice to see because he was a guy we were a little bit worried about in terms of his offensive production just hadn't been there in the AA level for the most part. Yeah, he's I think 4 doubles this week. You know, maybe a home run, maybe not a ton of power, but putting the ball in play is important for a guy like him because he does hit a lot of line drive. So it was nice to see, and it was a really cool moment there when he was able to take on Kyle Nicholas, who's actually has been his friend since like 3rd grade. They were on the high school baseball team together, and so to see him, he got an RBI off of him in a game. It may have been the game-winning RBI, or maybe not. It may have been, put him up 1-0. But it's kind of a cool week for him. It's still, he's not walking a ton. He's striking out a fair amount, but we'll take any sort of offensive production from him at this point.
What were your thoughts on him, David?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is that I want to preach about Dingler is like you look at even especially for catchers, it's like, yeah, I know he was starting at DH today, but when you're a catcher, you always have to work on just like a little bit more than your average position player. It's like even though I only caught a handful of games in my life, it's like you can by your 3rd or 4th at bat in a game, it's like your back is starting to get sore a little bit, and the legs are kind of feeling like jelly by the end of the game, but still, it's like you see him. Like he has like I want to say it's like a 340 OBP right now. Like he's getting on base. Like you mentioned, Chris, he's driving the ball pretty well. And like the walks, I'd like to see him get walked a little bit more. I think he has like 6 walks to 30 strikeouts. But yeah, it's like you really got to appreciate that as a catcher because like there's so much more conditioning and like so much more preparation that you have to do before start that you appreciate. Even though, yeah, he went 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts today. Like he still had a pretty good stretch and hope that he can keep it consistent.
Yeah, and you talk about the preparation of being a catcher in terms of why he's such a great, phenomenal athlete. Just the worst was catching a back-to-back doubleheader. Like just doing tournament plays, a tournament on Saturday, catch a game, I catch 2 games, and I catch another 2 games after that. And before you knew it, I smelled like BO and I was dripping in sweat, and during one of the, it sucks in the summertime because you're like 80 degrees, and you're wearing. This is back in the day when they had the old, not the hockey style ones, but just the round typical cages, and you're breathing, and it's like right in your face. And I was a little skinnier then, but good Lord, I felt like I sweated. But then I would have to go out, and sometimes I don't want to say I was hoping the coach would go, look, hey, why don't you play right field today or center field or something to that effect? Because when you do that after a while, I mean, it was no surprise my knees were done by. I mean, compound that with cross country and soccer, my knees were shot by the end of 12th grade. But anyway, not neither nor there. But as far as offensive performance, Chris, I'm sorry, we're going to add anything else before?
Yeah, just to David's point. I mean, yeah, they ask any of the coaches in the system, and they're going to want Dingler to work on his defense, and offense comes second. I'm sure they want him to hit, but they want him to control the pitching staff. And we didn't even mention Garrett Hill, who Dingler didn't catch that game. But Garrett Hill had his second 10 strikeout game this year. He's now 6th in the minor leagues in strikeout rate at 42.9%. And the other 5 dudes ahead of him are all in A ball. None of them are in Double A. And what's weird about him is a lot of the strikeouts just come on fastballs. Just fastballs like right above the belt, and nobody can hit it for some reason. And I feel like that's not going to work at AAA and above. But at some point, when you're just dominating like this, you do feel like a guy like that is going to get called up to AAA.
Yeah, and Garrett Hill, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was getting noticed in Toledo a few years ago, wasn't he? I want to say it was Jacoby Jones and another. Wasn't it Garrett Hill? They were both they both went to the Arizona Fall League. I want to say.
Oh, Garrett Hill did go to last year to the Arizona Fall League. He didn't quite make he made quite the impression in the Arizona Fall League this past year, and was Rule 5. Anybody could have picked him up, but because the way the collective bargaining agreement, they just decided to cancel the idea of having the Rule 5 draft. But you're right. He was there this just past summer or just past fall and had a really good showing.
He's never pitched in Toledo. He may have been up. I don't know if he was with the summer camp or whatever it was, the alternate site last year. But I don't know if that's who you're referencing there, or if maybe it's Logan or somebody else you're confused with.
I may have mixed up my former Tigers prospects, excuse me, but yeah.
No, that's fine. There was I remember there was Grayson Long. Was that a guy who came over in an Angels deal and then got hurt and then was never the same? I don't know.
Ian Kinsler trade, wasn't he?
Yeah, I believe so. Either the Kinsler trade or the Upton trade.
Troy Montgomery and Grayson Long. I was upset about Grayson Long because he wasn't going to light up the radar gun, but he had if memory serves, he had a really good curveball, and he gave the fastball a lot of ride, and he could really spot it. And it's just unfortunate that injury got in the way of that, and we never got to see him here. But I think he would have done stuff.
Yeah, I mean those were so kind of rough trades. We have seen Elvin Rodriguez at least, but Wilkel Hernandez had a rough outing the other day, and Troy Montgomery kind of. I think he left the organization like that dude who hopped off the airplane with the champagne and the 2 middle fingers. Troy Montgomery, he basically left in the middle of the game, and that was it. So, but yeah, I mean, other offensive players, Raj, I think you were getting at. It really wasn't. I mean, Kerry Carpenter was having a good week before he got called up, but and other than that, it was like Carpio had a strong week, I think, and
Jake Holton,
Navigado had a big home run and a walk-off hit, I think. Yeah, Holton. So Holton got called up. I don't know if this was his first week up there. I think it was.
Yeah, it was. You stole my point. I want to talk about Jake Holton, and
go for it.
He was putting it together pretty decently at West Michigan. It's like he kind of, I was just reading about him recently. It's like he kind of jumped onto the scene in West Michigan. You're like who's this guy, Jake Holton? And all of a sudden he got the call up to Erie recently. He has a handful of games there right now, and he's not lighting the world up just yet. But yeah, I think he's noticeable.
Yeah, I want to say when I was doing the roster projections for the minor leagues, I actually had him. I thought he would start in Erie because he had a really nice finish in West Michigan last year, and I thought they'd put Chris Myers in West Michigan or something like that. But yeah, so it's nice to see guys like that move relatively quickly. The other big, we just unfortunately really weak weeks, as it were, for Daniel Cabrera, Gage Workman, Parker Meadows, some of the guys you're going to count on, but they're all just, kind of all or nothing hitters at this point, and it's tough. They're going to have big weeks and going to have really lousy weeks, and all three of them just didn't do much this week. I think they all had an OPS under 400.
Yeah, I mean, Erie, the guys there today certainly battled. I really hope Andre Lipsia starts to put it together, but yeah, at the end of the day, you can say it was a hard-fought battle for everybody. Pitching staff really gave it their all, but yeah, it's just one of those hard-fought games that didn't go our way.
Yeah, and Andre's off to a rough start to the month of May, and he's batting under 200 currently. He's still getting, even though the walks have kind of gone down, he's struck out more times than he's walked so far this month. So that's something in terms of total walks he has for the season. That's still an impressive number so far. But this month he's had 2 walks to 6 strikeouts, which is, of course, it goes without saying it's not good. In terms of how many walks, somebody asked in our YouTube chat how many walks he has on the year. Let's see here. He has
22 or so.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Let's see here. Yep, 22 walks on the season. So, but in terms of this month, he's kind of off to a rough start. And it was the same thing with, like, we're talking about Parker Meadows, who's kind of had a really good first game. I think it was like 4 or 5 walks he had or something to that effect. 5 sounds like too much. He had 3 or 4 walks. Yeah. But overall, the fact that they're able to split with Altuna's got, again, there's a couple guys in their team. One of the players I like on there, of course, outside of Nick Gonzalez, who is the number 1 prospect for the Pirates in their system, is Ivor Peguero.
Leo Peguero.
Yeah, Peguero. Yeah. Thank you. I've totally said his name incorrectly. I like that he's got good makeup, and he's batting over 300 right now in Double-A. It's just some of the I don't know how the Pirates. Well, I know how the Pirates do. They just get these guys in trades because they give up everybody. And then they got Lolo Sanchez, who also is a nice prospect, I think. And I don't know. Either way, the split with the curve is pretty good. Is there anybody else that I'm missing here? By the way, was this strange to anybody that Gerson Moreno did not pitch until Thursday? The last appearance he had beforehand was April 30th.
I didn't really notice. I guess you never know if somebody's got, like, dealing with something small, like a fingernail or a bruise or something like that, that's not worthy of a 7-day stint. But
Ronnie Garcia syndrome.
Yeah, you're not ready to pitch. So I don't know. Also, yeah, I honestly wasn't paying that close of attention, and so I didn't catch that. But I don't know. Yeah, he's been solid this year, but he's also, kind of an org guy. Although he was kind of a priority signing for them, it seemed like in the offseason to sign him as a free agent. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like Erie's playing pretty well despite having kind of an all or nothing offense, which is a testament to their pitching and perhaps their catching.
One last thing I want to touch on before we really splurge on West Michigan is I really want to give some credit to Meadows, because he put up a very, very impressive at bat today when he got that. Even though yes, he did go 1 for 4 he didn't strike out, but yeah, he went 1 for 4 on that one hit. I was really impressed by it, because if you look at the spread for that at bat, yeah, I want to say it was like 5 or 6 pitches, and like this is actually the kind of the opposite to Reese Olson. Like when you're a hitter and like you start to get in like the 4th or 5th pitch in at bat, it's like you really start to get in your head, and especially when you're in the minors, you're like, oh my God, I'm 0 for 3 today. Like if I don't put something together right now, then what's going to happen? So yeah, it's like I really respect Meadows putting together a really good at bat today, even though he came out with a single. It's that was something I admired.
Yeah, what I like, David, is the fact that you're looking at individual at bats, not just looking at box score, which is vital to anybody out there. Which kind of segues into West Michigan, because when we were talking about Chris Myers earlier, that at bat he had, like we were mentioning, how it was off the kind of almost like the end of the nub of the bat there, right before you get the handle. It looked like it on replay, but there was a couple times yesterday. Some of the bats and plays in Saturday's game were ridiculous, and that we'll definitely talk about yesterday's experience because Saturday's game was one of the, Chris. I feel like every time I go to Lansing, it's an experience. I mean, don't you like? Because let's just start with the fact that we went to go see the Tigers' best 3 pitching prospects at West Michigan, and we came away with nada.
Arguably the 3 best pitching prospects in the organization. I mean, depending on how you feel about, Jackson Jobe and Jobe and stuff like that. But yeah. I mean, I apologize to Dan on air because I was like, I think it might be our fault. Because I went to Grand Rapids last Saturday to try to catch Wilmer Flores, and the game got rained out. And then I went on Wednesday to get Dylan Smith, and Dylan Smith was awesome for 3 innings. Exactly what you want to see. Mid fastball 92 to 95, a couple of good breaking balls, swings and misses, not in abundance, but enough. They weren't hitting them. He gave up 1 hit, but got erased in a double play. The scout in front of me threw an oil can Boyd body comp on him, which is a name that probably doesn't register with a lot of younger people, but I thought was an absolute perfect body comp because Dylan Smith is not he's not terribly big. He's like listed as 6'2", but he still looks kind of skinny, like he can add a bunch of muscle, and you don't know if he will or not, but the velocity is fine. The pitching was good. But then, started the 4th inning. As soon as they started seeing him the second time, it was nothing but hard contact. And part of me I think that Lansing is probably just a really good hitting environment. They've got the massive, 25-foot wall in center field that must make for a perfect batter's eye. But I mean, he was getting hit hard, and he kind of survived the 4th inning, but didn't get out of the 5th. They pulled him after a couple batters. But I mean, it ended up being his worst outing of the year. He was 5 earned runs in 4 innings, which is a bummer. And then so Raj goes the next day to go see Ty Madden. And what does Ty Madden do?
Not much. Not much. No. And here's the thing. With Ty Madden, by the way, and this is if anybody's watching YouTube, I just posted the Dennis Oil Can Boyd reference. He was also in the Expos for a little while, and it looks like some independent league. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll stop that. Yeah, Ty Madden. So going to Thursday, Ty Madden looked like he was working on something, trying to establish his off speed as the first pitch strike, and he was going about 95, 96. Had a pretty good, decent. I thought his breaking ball was pretty good, but then when Lansing started figuring out the timing of it all of him, they started hitting him pretty hard, including a home run to it was left field, and so it was kind of from there things kind of unraveled a little bit. But overall, it wasn't his best outing. But I think he was working on something. I really believe that because some of the things that, as far as his breaking ball goes is concerned, he threw more. It was a mix. I thought he threw more of that to the fastball. I could be wrong about that, but just by basic appearance to me, and Lansing won that game in extra innings, by the way, 6-5. No, I'm sorry. No, it wasn't before extra innings. It was 6-5. Madden's final line, by the way, he didn't last 3 and 2 1/3 innings, 7 hits, 4 runs. One of them 4 runs, 3 earned, 5 strikeouts. The strikeouts were impressive. They were definitely impressive, but again, he could have been working on something. I don't know, but that's what my takeaway from that was, and that was my first chance to see also Chris Myers in action, and leads us to Cole Keith, because Cole Keith had a pretty good week, I think.
Yeah, I mean, somebody asked a question about Cole Keith, not in our, when we were asking for questions, but about him, like after a highlight, it was basically like, hey, is there something wrong with his swing? And the answer to that is no. We've talked about it a bunch. He has a flatter, level line drive swing, but he's hitting 317 now. And his slugging is up to 500. I think it's like 100 points higher than it was last year. He only has 2 home runs so far, but they were saying the one he hit on Friday night was through a stiff wind, like heading in. There were a bunch of balls that should have gone out that did not, but he was able to get it through that. So he's a guy with above average raw power. He's just gonna, it's not his approach to try to lift too much. He hits a lot of line drives all over the field. Maybe in the future he'll learn to pull the ball more. I mean, they always say that, his power is the last thing to come. So he'll figure that out. But I don't think they're going to want to do anything with his swing because he's making really good contact and hitting the ball well. So Yeah, I mean that was good to see. I don't know if you happen to watch much, David, but
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you look at Colt Keith, and the first thing I think of is Colt Keith is who they wanted Kingston Liniak to be, and even though is he still in the organization right now? I can't recall.
Liniak, yeah, he just came back. He's been playing in Lakeland for the last week or so.
Okay, yeah, yeah. You look at some of the at bats that Colt Keith is putting together, and I'm really impressed because I think he's a 2000s kid, isn't he? I think he was born in like 2000 or 2001.
I think he might be 20 still.
Yeah, I mean, he's showing you watch a lot of his at bats. He's showing a lot of maturity, and a lot of the at bats he's taking. It's like you alluded to, he's not like his hands aren't starting by his hip and finishing at his shoulders. It's like he's not trying to hit the ball 500 feet, which is something I really respect. And he put that on display in the game today. It's like I know the three of us are going to fight over who the farmer of the day is for the West Michigan game, but yeah, it's like you can't discount 2 RBIs. It's like considering 12 runs, that's like that's admirable.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like when you can spray the ball, it's like that's something they asked of Torque before they called him up. It's like try and drive the ball to the other field, and that's exactly what he did. And when you're able to touch all fields, that's like that's something I admire a lot more than a 500-foot home run is on a 1-1 swing driving into the gap, opposite field gap with 2 outs.
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier to get somebody who can hit to all fields to learn how to pull the ball a little bit more than it is to get somebody who is a strict pull hitter and try to teach them how to use the whole field. So it's a great place to start. He's producing. He looks solid. Good mature plate approach. So yeah, I mean, I consider him one of the best hitting prospects in their system pretty easily at this point.
You guys were still talking about
Colt Keith.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah, the game I was impressed with most was Friday night's game, where he had 3 hits. He was 3 for 5, drove in 2, and he had a home run, which was a monster shot. And there's, in terms of like where I think you mentioned that question, Chris, about where we could see him playing beyond in the future. I still think it would have to hit for more power for the outfield, but overall, he had a really good week. But I know Brian Packer's picked up a little bit too, but the rest of the offense has been. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, it's odd. They have at least the minor league stats are a little bit wonky for the Midwest League for some reason, but the Whitecaps have the best OPS in the league as a team.
What?
It doesn't make any sense because without those 2 wins this weekend, they started 6-2, and then they're on a 4-15 stretch, and they just won their last 2 games. So it was a 2-15 stretch, and it's hard to figure out why. And Dan was talking about this week in Lansing, they surrendered like 8 different leads after they'd taken the lead, and the next inning they gave it back like 8 times. And that happened I went to see Dylan Smith. It was a doubleheader. I went and saw the second game, and that was kind of a wild one where the benches cleared in the 7th inning after Bryant Packard hit an RBI double and then started yelling at the Lansing dugout. And I think the theory was that he thought he was yelling at the West Michigan dugout, kind of forgot where he was. I don't know. But yeah, so the Whitecaps took a 2-run lead, and then they went out and lost. Gave up 3 runs in the bottom of the 7th, and it was a walk-off. And they had a walk-off loss, I think, on Friday, a walk-off walk. And Dan was saying that 2 of those balls were automatic balls because the pitcher took too long, which feels kind of ridiculous. So, their offense, you look at, Packard's heating up, like you said, Raj. Holton was good before he left. I'm trying to think who else.
Perez?
Winsel Perez has continued to hit. He had another triple today, I think. So, I mean, the offense, it's just kind of hard to figure why they've been so bad. We saw the first home run from Corey Joyce of the year. We saw the first home run from Myers. We saw the first home run from Josh Crouch. So maybe they might pick things up a little bit by folding in a few more of these kind of older college guys. We'll see.
Yeah, and one player that I think doesn't get looked at enough that actually put on a decent performance today was Jack O'Loughlin. It's like Raj earlier today. I mentioned to you that I was excited to see what he had today. It's like he had 3 walks, but still, it's like you saw that he was getting hitters to just hit the ball into really unlucky spots, and like outs they're going to be outs in the books at the end of the day. But like 4 innings, 1 hit. It's like I was very impressed by his start, and I remember before we signed him, he was lighting up the Australian League, if I'm not mistaken, pretty decently, and
Right.
At a
nobody
very young age.
Yeah.
and it's impressive to see him putting some good innings together. And another player that I liked was Trey Cruz. He's I want to say he's a victim of very very unlucky at bats, because like I don't think the stats show. I don't think the stats show appropriately Trey Cruz's playing athletic ability right now. It's like he's been putting together some decent at bats, but just unfortunately, just he's going through a stretch. But yeah, like I said, I nominate Chris Myers as the player of the game today, even though you can talk about Ulrich Bojarski in the Grand Slam, like, which was a bomb, but yeah, it's like I say Chris Myers had a pretty decent day at the plate today, and it was nice to see that.
And Bojarski's Grand Slam came off a first baseman. So like anytime you're getting an ephus from a position player, you go, all right, okay, good for you. But
not to mention Lansing. What was it? Lansing continues to do that. Like I remember the scorekeepers were talking about that last night. Was that scorekeepers, Chris, that we're talking about that?
Yeah. So I mean, we could touch it. We went there on Saturday to catch Wilmer Flores, and we'll get back to that in a second. But yeah, in the game went to extras, and Lansing in extra innings just put out an infielder. I forgot it. Noshan something. He's like a 5'6" infielder, and they're like, yeah, this is the first time I've ever seen an entire game. They just put out an infielder. Meanwhile, the Whitecaps lost their starter, Wilmer Flores, in the first inning, and still had enough healthy arms to. They even had a guy warming up in the bullpen, just in case the game kept going.
It almost did too. Yeah.
Yes, it did. It almost did, but. So 2 days in a row they used a position player, and 2 days in a row it got kind of ugly for him. But so we went to see Wilmer Flores because he's been absolutely electric, dominant in his first handful of outings, and we're getting all settled in, set down. We get Rogelio's got this awesome radar gun that attached to my phone. We could take photos, all that stuff, and then the Tigers game's in, so he has to go do his thing, and he comes back and Flores is done for 30 pitches, and it started exactly like we expected. Struck out the first 2 batters, one on a 79-mile-an-hour breaking ball, one on a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. Looked awesome, and then it was like single walk, single, and he's done. It was like, well, that sucks. But
I mean, Raji touched on it that Erie really needed a win, or no, not Erie, West Michigan. Excuse me. Yeah, West Michigan needed one, and it's like Chris, you said it's like nobody likes a walk-off walk. Especially on the pitch clock rules. It's like nobody likes a walk-off walk. And it was nice to see West Michigan really putting it together today. And they had a good showing, and they needed that. I feel like all the guys in the lineup needed that.
Yeah. The you know what, Jeremy, on YouTube he asked, is he throwing weird or my trip it? No, he does throw a little weird. He has kind of like a overhead, kind of almost overhead, right? Kind of.
He looks to me like somebody who puts his entire body into every throw, like he has to, like he doesn't have the pure arm strength to make every throw. He really has to. Yeah, it's like he cocks his arm back and then just lets loose. And I mean, there was a lot of talk about him being more of a natural second baseman than a shortstop or a third base. And I don't know. I mean, he was definitely injured a lot last year too, so we don't really know what's going on there. But yeah, he doesn't have the traditional arm stroke that you would see from a left side infielder.
I mean, and sometimes when I don't want to get into the intricacies of throwing mechanics, but especially for infielders, it's a big thing that if you're used to one arm angle, it's like if you're used to an arm angle that you're taught when you're young and in high school, college, that they always tell you take throws from shortstop to find your arm angle. And even in the minor leagues, if they're going to mess with that at all, it's like you could see if he starts throwing from the proper arm angle that you want to see for a shortstop, like the high 3/4, is like you could see him just riding it right into the opposing team's dugout.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes having throwing mechanics like that could just work. It's like I even remember him. Oh God, I can't remember. I think it was. I want to say it was like DJ Mayhew when you saw him turning in double play when he was with Colorado. That like he would take the throw from shortstop and just like his hand is over his head and just 12 o'clock arm slot right to first base.
JJ
Good
Hardy.
stuff. I think people are getting really cranked.
Yeah, JJ Hardy was a really good shortstop for a long time and had almost over the top throwing motion. So yeah, I mean it doesn't preclude him from doing anything. It just is a little bit different looking to the eye. But yeah, I don't know. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say I wanted to get back to Jack's start today for West Michigan, and I think maybe it's the fact that he started the game. I mean, they've been splitting his starts with Dylan Smith, so maybe the fact that he started on his own wasn't after somebody knowing full well how his start was going to go today. I think it really helped him, and I like him a lot as a pitcher too because I have a weird thing for lefties, and the Tigers really don't have too many lefties in their system as far as starting pitching goes. But overall, I thought he did a good job of mixing spots and establishing the inner part of the strike zone, which he's always been known for. So that's good to see. And for West Michigan, especially the bullpen, like last night, Gabe Segura went 3 innings, which he never really does. He's usually a 2-inning guy, and they almost came back on them after scoring that was the crazy part about last night. I'm like, no, please, I want to go home. The game was over 3 hours at that point.
Yeah.
So, but either way, it was shout out to Dan Hasty for having us on the broadcast. That was really cool. That made my weekend, and that was a nice little thing. So it was just funny because they're streaming online now, so it's a little different. They're not on radio anymore. So, but it was good to talk shop. So.
Yeah, and I mean, not that we don't go up there to watch the whole game, but the whole point we went up there was we really wanted to see Wilmer Flores pitch in person because it seemed like he was probably not going to be in West Michigan much longer, given how dominant he has been. And we just, we didn't get a very good look. I don't really know what to tell people about that. We saw flashes of what he can do, but he also got hit harder than he ever has before, at least at this level. So I don't know what to take of it. But it's still like the raw stuff is still really impressive looking. It's kind of like he's a fastball, slider, curveball guy. It's kind of like a Dylan Cease sort of repertoire. Like he may have thrown a changeup or two, but it was only 30 pitches, so it's tough to tell. But yeah, we just need to see more of it. We got to catch him again at some point.
But before we go to Lakeland, though, there's something that we were talking about this yesterday, Chris. I wanted to mention on the podcast. I think it was like Lynn Henning. Believe said that these guys are going to be heading to Erie or could see them in Erie soon. And look, the bottom line is this: I got to give them till midsummer. I mean, till June or July, because the way I look at it right now, and Greg talked about this last week on the podcast. There has to be a series of moves for this to even happen. But we saw it yesterday with Flores. That's the shortest outing we've seen all season. He still needs to work on stretching himself out more. Going 5 or 6 innings right now, and he hasn't gone more than 4 yet.
Yeah.
So
once I think it was 3, 4, in less than 1.
Yeah. So I mean, Ty Madden had a show around in 2.1 or 2 1/3 innings. It's gonna take some time. So anybody who's out there about this whole call him up kind of thing with that, or for Erie's got a pretty good roster right now. I don't see why I rock the boat.
That's the key point. Like none of these moves happen in a vacuum. You're going to move a guy up. You have to send somebody else down. And it's like, who deserves to be sent down from Erie right now? It's, maybe in another month or so when some veterans can move on, maybe they have opt-outs in their contracts or whatever, then you could start filling in. But there's not really any huge rush. These guys aren't getting to the big leagues this year. So you just want them to get their innings in, keep developing, and you want them to be challenged at a certain point if they're dominating. But all 3 of the guys have hit hiccups now, so they should all get at least a few more outings before they move on to a higher level.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, you touched on it. It's like the thing about developing, especially with pitchers. It's like that's always the hardest thing. It's like development's always like it's a marathon and not a sprint. It's like Wilmer Flores right now. It's like he did you guys find out why he got pulled, or was it just because
They didn't say anything specifically. I
Yeah.
just assumed it was 30 pitches, a nice round number. And I even before the new developmental changes, I don't think they ever let a pitcher throw more than 30 innings in the minors or 30 pitches in the minors in an inning. At least I recall a bunch of times that happened where somebody got to the 30 pitch mark and they just pulled them. So I don't know. I think that might just be an organizational wide philosophy. Although I didn't check, and we can talk about this in the next segment about another pitcher who threw a lot of pitches in a short outing.
Yeah, it's like, especially with former fours right now, it's like like you mentioned, they're trying to stretch him out to throw more innings. It's like, I'm sure he's like pretty comfortable at West Michigan right now. It's like, even if you were to call him up to Erie, it's like you got to think that he'd have to, get used to a whole new facility with like a whole new pitching coaches. Like, of course, he'll probably still have his throwing programs and such, but yeah, it's like you said, there's no. Especially now, it's like after an outing like this, the last thing you want to do is say like, "Hey, pack your bags and go find a new place to live in Erie." But yeah, like I said, it's a marathon, and just give him some time, and I feel like you can get something out of him down the line.
Speaking of marathons, it kind of falls into what's going on in Lakeland because Paul Richon started today, and he went 3 innings, 2 hits, 1 run. 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. Again, no word where he's going after this. It's just, is it strange to you guys, by the way, that no one has talked about? Like, I feel like, is it just me, or is it we're the only ones that mentioned it?
Yeah, Paul Richon is back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he was kind of a top 30 prospect to some people in the organization, as a potential back end starter or whatever. So it's just guys like that they're kind of interchangeable at times. So if he went missing for a year, everybody's like, oh yeah, what happened to that dude? It's not like people asking us questions like, hey, what's going on with Franklin Perez? What's going on with Franklin Perez? Like, I don't know. But Paul Richon is like, he's probably all right. So yeah, I mean, I was going to joke that that's the pitcher everybody wants to talk about from Lakeland this week because he made 2 outings, but it's clearly not the case.
Yeah, I mean, he was the he wasn't the headline, but God, I can't. He was like one of the headlines of the Castellanos trade now.
Yeah,
it's him and Alex Lang were the two arms in that deal.
Yeah, I mean, I was like Ricken, or I say you guys are saying Richin, or I don't know.
I honestly don't know how he pronounces his name. It could be Rishon. It could be, I think it's Richin, but I who knows? It doesn't.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll find out one day and we'll go back and edit it.
Yeah, I mean, he was he think he was drafted in the high rounds. So like, you see his name on the minor league rosters, and you're like, oh, it's like that name rings a bell. But yeah, it's nice to see him getting back on the mound today. The line looks good. I didn't catch the game for Lakeland, but looking at the line here, it's like even though you get a run and a walk, it's like the only 2 hits over 3 innings. It's like that's impressive for like what, I don't know how many starts he's made at Lakeland so far, but that's noticeable.
Yeah, and speaking of what's noticeable, was Jackson Jobe's line yesterday, because apparently we are doing this thing now where every time he pitches, Tiger fans come out of the woodwork and critiquing him and then they'll put the stat line of Marcelo Meyer, the draft pick from the Red Sox, and doing that thing. It's so childish and stupid. It really is. I feel like people wanting this kid to fail because they want to be right. And again, look at it's a stat line. Did you watch any of it? No. Shut up. Like it just look. I wanted him to get Meyer. I wanted to get a shortstop. I'm not gonna lie about that. They picked him. Deal with it. And if he doesn't pan out, then just there's another thing you can add, another log to the fire of the Fire Al Avila chance. Perfectly fine. But it's his 4th start. Stop. Every time it's like I don't know. I think it's just ridiculous. You want a kid to fail because you want to be right so bad. It's eating at you like, yeah, come on. No, it's ridiculous, man. It's like and right there, right? What Jeremy said right there is absolutely perfect. People think they're so smart based off crap they hear or read or never seen. Amen. I'm going down to Lakeland in June. First week, I'm going June 4th or June 1st to the 4th, and get to see these guys live. We'll go from there. That's it. Enough. So anyway, I just want to get that disclaimer.
The unfortunate thing is Jackson Jobe became the first 19-year-old pitcher to ever have a rough outing in A ball. It's hard to deal with, knowing that you've ruined your draft so badly. You know what? Like, I understand that the tendency to want to freak out. I was telling you yesterday, Roger, that I don't like. It's getting to the point where I don't even want to like tweet out the information because I know people are going to freak out. Like if something bad happens, but yeah, nobody saw it. The only things we should care about Jackson Jobe really this year are getting innings and staying healthy. Now, obviously, I think it's pretty clear that he's a little bit more raw than most people had expected for a number 3 overall pick. But the story with him was always the stuff, right? You know, it's a fastball that's continually has hit 97 in all of his outings. You know, the ridiculous spin rate on the slider. A really good changeup too that kind of gets short shrift, even though some people think it's better than his fastball. So it's just a matter of like, yeah, he's a kid who spent a lot of time at shortstop, not a lot of time logging innings, and he's facing professional hitters, and he's learning how to pitch with this kind of hellacious arm that he has. It's like, you know, it's going to take some time. It might not work out. High school pitchers don't work out all that often, and so it was a very risky pick. It carries a pretty high ceiling and a very low floor. Everybody knew that. It happened. Nothing that he does now is going to change. Like, you can't go back in time and pick somebody else. So, yeah, complaining about it or comparing stats to some of the other people who were taken is just, it's an exercise in, like, kind of stabbing yourself in the leg. Like, hey, good for you, man. Yeah, you really nailed it. The Tigers had a pretty good draft, I think, by the looks of it. We talked about Ty Madden and Dylan Smith. Those guys were both drafted last year. Isaac Pacheco, I haven't been like a huge fan of his, but he's performing pretty well for, he's also what, 19-year-old shortstop. They did, I mean, he's not shortstop, but you know, they did get a young infielder in the draft too. So yeah, I don't know. Like Marcelo Mayer went to the Red Sox, right? Who was their second round pick? Oh, that's right. It was Judd Fabian, who didn't sign. He did not sign with them. So like, you know, do you want Marcelo Mayer and not Judd Fabian, or do you want Jackson Jobe and Ty Madden and Dylan Smith and Isaac Pacheco? I think.
Well, Ty Madden would have been there anyway. If yeah.
It's just
people are getting really cranked.
It's very silly to overreact, and at the same time, we know if Jackson Jobe went out there and pitched 4 perfect innings with like 10 strikeouts, we'd get like 8 tweets saying, "Call him up, he's ready for West Michigan." And no, he's not. It's going to take some time.
Work is hard.
Exactly, Harry Shearer. So anyway, yeah,
I want more. I'm going to put more Harry Shearer drops, Chris, just for you.
But no, I think, and we'll get to see him next week. They'll be on St. Lucie, I think, right, has TV feed, so we'll probably get to see him, and you'll get to see him in person shortly thereafter. So we'll get a better idea. But nobody needs to be freaking out right now in the dude's first year of pro ball. Come on.
Oh yeah, no, it's like, sorry, Roger, but yeah, it's like that. Admittedly, yes, Roger, I think I'm gonna be in the same boat as you. That I was watching the draft in my car because I was driving home. I can't remember where I was driving home from, but like, yeah, you saw Jobe come off the board, and you're like, ow, am I aching everything? It's like, but yeah, no, it's like the first thing that came to mind was Bo Burrows. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was drafted out of high school, right?
He was.
I think, yeah, like,
3rd overall pick, I think.
Yeah, but then also you think about Matt Manning as well, which is like you think of the tale of 2 minor league pitchers, where like, you know, you have one that ultimately just comes out, it works out, and you see that he could be coming back soon from the rehab assignment. You also see Bo Burrows, where, like, you know, they were talking about, you know, he had a very a good old country fastball, and he can really throw it up there, and you know, you can try to hit it, and he had a really good hammer down curveball, but it honestly didn't work out, and he's known for throwing up on the mound against the Twins.
Oh, well,
And,
that's embarrassing.
yeah, like I said, to tail two pitchers, and if Marcelo Myers works out, I'll be mad every time they come to Comerica. But at the same time, if Jobe works out, then we'll get to prove all the haters wrong.
Speaking of what worked out today, Roberto Campos with his first home run.
I was curious to see when that was going to come up.
I was going to say, because of course, we can't grab video from it, but I'll wait for the Detroit Tiger Development Department to drop that tomorrow once they pull it from their one camera, which we did not know was there. But hopefully, more video, please. That's all we ask. And so, but yeah, and hopefully that happens. He'll hit a home run in Port St. Lucie, which would, I think, blow up Tiger's Twitter. And another guy, Chris, I think you mentioned him last week, but Carlos Mendoza continues to have a good stretch of games here.
He's just a pest, man. He's a guy that I enjoy watching him. He's like minor league Altuve, just short second baseman who gets on base, hits and steals. Doesn't have a ton of power. I do think he has a home run this year, but their offense was really kind of interesting this week. They had Christian Santana. He still is not hitting a lot, but when he hits, it goes awfully far. I think he went 2 for 15 this week, and they were both 420 plus foot home runs.
Monster shots.
Insane for an 18-year-old. He's got power. And Campos has been hitting the hell out of the ball lately. Like we tweeted out, like he's another guy who doesn't necessarily have a natural loft in his swing, kind of like Colt Keith. He's not the natural hitter that Colt Keith is, but Campos murders the ball. He had 3 balls. I think one was like 109 and another one that was 105 and another one was 99 on Saturday night. And and so it was nice to see him finally get that first one over the fence, because we saw it in spring training. He took a breaking ball and hit it the opposite field. It's like, you see what, just from looking at the data and seeing the dude physically impressive. He must put on one hell of a show in batting practice. You'll probably get a chance to see that soon. So you see what they liked in him. He's not a complete player. He doesn't walk a ton. There's more work that needs to be done there, but it's nice to see. That's just a fun roster, right? Like you got Santana, who's super young, hitting home runs. Campos is super young, hitting the ball hard. Pacheco didn't have a great week, but it looks like, and neither did Manuel Sequeira, who's kind of like the forgotten fourth guy down there, but another really exciting infielder. And the key with those two guys is it looks like they just kind of got unlucky, because they're big strikeout guys, and they didn't have a ton of strikeouts last week. So you say, well, that's progress too, even if they're not putting a ton of balls in play or getting hits, they're at least putting the balls in play, so they're not striking out. So I'm still excited about that young offensive squad down there.
Yeah, Campos had 3 multi-hit games since May 1st. That's saying something. He's putting together not just power, but just his approach to the play. He has raised his batting average from the beginning of the month from 242 now to to 281 so far. He's hitting 370 in the month of May. So there's something that's probably clicked for him. You like to see hopefully the power will continue to grow. As far as pitching goes, I'm trying to think of in terms of Lakeland's rotation the last couple of days. Has anybody stood out to you guys in terms of bullpen or rotation? I mean, yesterday's start, or was it Friday? They lost 9-1, and Wilkie Hernandez, from all accounts, we have our sources out in Lakeland told us no bueno.
He's had a couple of decent outings, but he got blown up in that one. I think he only got 2 outs. Garrett Burhan is continuing to do his thing. I think he was their 9th rounder last year at Ohio State. He's like 5 innings, 1 earned run. He's just kind of been left behind, I guess. Brent Herter is down there too. Those are the 2 pitchers from last year's draft who were still in low A. But it's they've got some really interesting Latin American pitchers down there too. We talked about that Marcano kid, who I believe is injured now. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened there, but they've got was it Eric Canales? I think throws close to 100. There's like an Eric Rodriguez. They got two different Erics who have the CK in their name.
Oh, the guy they got from the Mexico. I think he's from Mexico.
Mexican, but he's got really interesting spin data on his fastball and his breaking ball. So it's tough. You never really know about these guys until and he's built like their classic Vladimir Pinto kind of bowling ball reliever. So I don't think there's anything more than a reliever there, but he's still interesting. So it's there's just not a ton of super exciting starting pitching down there, other than the guy they took 3rd overall.
Yeah, how dare the 3rd overall not be lighting up the board at single A yet? How dare he?
Well, and you know what? And the other annoying thing is that everybody brings up Marcelo Meyer, but all the talk before the draft was it was going to either be Jobe or House. Like they weren't really even connected. People were hoping Meyer would get to him, and early on in the process, they talked about liking him. But all the chatter we heard in the weeks leading up to the draft, it was Jobe or House, and
Yeah,
so House is playing well too, and so was Jordan Lawler, and so is Khalil Watson. Like all those shortstops are playing well, but that's usually what the top hitters from a draft do in A ball for the most part. Like if they don't, it's kind of an issue.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what you got out of Mickey Moniak after he went 1st overall. You saw him coming up through the lower levels, and he wasn't putting up those insane numbers we were expecting. But yeah, it's like just like Moniak, Jobe might be like, I don't know, like you said, he's only 4 starts, so I'm not going to say it just yet. But it's like you could see him by the end of this year start lighting it up. But Chris, like you said with Jobe, it's like you're just starting out in minor league camp and you're 19 years old. It's like he might be living on his own for the first time. And it's like when you're at minor league facility, there's a lot of stuff off the field that he's got to adjust to probably, as well as taking the long bus rides for away games and stuff like that, and being expected to pitch like the day after a 16-hour car ride. So I'd say give him some time to get acclimated to that. He's probably on throwing programs like crazy. He's probably being monitored by every coach in the system. So yeah, I'm not giving up on Jobe right now.
As far as Brett, I was going to mention the other one I wanted to mention this week was Brant Hurdler, who was drafted last year. Chris is part of that draft class. The lefty out of Georgia Tech in the 7th round. Again, I would like to see more of him because you look at his numbers: 25 strikeouts over 19 innings pitched. But as far as I did some more eyes on him, he's 15 hits over 19 innings. But overall, he has started 1 game out of the bullpen. But that's another guy I'm looking forward to seeing, only because outside of the lefty factor, is just to see another arm out of the potentially out of the bullpen.
Yeah, no, I thought every one of the pitchers they took last year had some interesting aspects to him, including Herder, because Herder was a guy who could have gone top 5 rounds, I think, the year before, but got injured. So, it'll be fun to get to see all these guys on the app again. We only saw some of them once last year. I mean, 1 week of games last year, and we get 3 of them this year. So excited to see that. And I don't know. Hopefully, we see some progress and see some excitement out of the pitching. But I don't think that's necessarily the focus outside of an arm or two there right now. I think mostly it's the bats in Lakeland, and that's fun because when has it ever been the bats for the Tigers?
Yeah, and one last guy I want to touch on from Lakeland, which I actually didn't think about. Until I looked it up just now. But Carlos Mendoza, who had a day yesterday in Jobe's start, but I didn't even realize it until I was reading about it just now. But you look at his line. He had a 3 for 4 day in Jobe's start. It's like he's had a cold May for the most part, but this is a guy that has more walks than strikeouts. It's like, especially when you see that out of minor league guys, it's like that's pretty impressive. And when you look at a guy like Campos, who's been pretty aggressive, like the home run he had today, that was on if I remember right, it was only a 3-pitch at bat, and it's like that didn't take very long. But you really appreciate looking at a guy like Mendoza, looking at now 17 walks to 12 strikeouts. That's something you don't see very much in modern day baseball, especially like you look at minor league guys that want to impress, and the way to impress is chicks dig the long ball. It's like try and just hit everything out. When you see more walks and strikeouts, it's not something you see a whole lot, and I like that.
Yeah, I mean he's a guy that even they called him up to Erie last year, I think for an emergency situation, but he's a pest and kind of fun to watch.
Yeah,
and 5'7". He's as tall as me. That's kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
only because how often you see a 5 guy like the Epsteins out there in the world, or not Epstein's. What's the guy's name?
Eckstein. David Eckstein?
Yeah, David Eckstein. Yeah.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh no, not no. Anyway, so we move on. That's about. Do we get any questions, Chris?
We did get a fair amount of questions, but we're already an hour 40 in. I don't know if we want to. We could breeze through them, I guess, if we want to try.
Let's save the questions for Thursday, because Thursday we will be at number. Yeah, we'll be live. We'll be live on Thursday. We'll be live Thursday at the Woodward Studios. And sorry, I saw something that just totally 100% threw me off. We'll be live on Thursday, but out there. And, this is a comment right here.
Right.
Y'all think that Alvila should buy lightsabers for Tiger Bats and Star Wars Day? He should be broken out today and say we got a bullpen day.
Yeah.
They didn't really have much choice for that. But now, everybody in the YouTube chat. Thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it, David. Congratulations getting your first show out of the way. And we'll be at the Woodward Studios on Thursday starting at 7:00. We might have a guest. We'll figure that out. But I'll be down at Comerica. So hopefully there's some sort of news or something that happens if we have to get down there early or not. But otherwise, the series starts tomorrow, 5-game series. Until then, we'll see you next time.